Welcome to the practice of a Hoodoo Baptist, my personal journey of root work, faith, and ancestral wisdom. This is where I honor the ones who came before me and share what's been passed down and walk you through my experiences of being unapologetically aligned, covered by spirit, guided by blood. Now, I was born into this not because I chose it, but because it's in my family. It's the blood that carries it. Now, I will say though, like I was inspired to do this podcast because, honestly, because of the movie Sinners. When Sinners came out, it seemed like I noticed this shift, especially with my people, with us, where more folks were coming to a better understanding of hoodoo, not a full understanding, but I'll say a better understanding of hoodoo. And I saw that so many people wanted to learn, so many people wanted to know what books to read. Folks wanted to really connect with it, and some folks also probably became more conscious of the fact that they were already connected to it, but now they were listening, they were seeing, and yeah, that definitely inspired me wanting to talk about this. For me, this started before I was even here. My history with hoodoo, which is not even like a word that I said very often, like as a kid. Like I heard it, but in my family, as far as like us practicing tradition, it's just tradition. Like people hear hoodoo, but I hear recipes, I hear rituals, I hear prayers. Yeah, like it's so much more than what people believe that it is. I really feel moved to have this space to not only help eliminate the stigma that is still on this practice, but to also like educate people. Now, let me give a disclaimer. If you are interested in just hearing about spells, if you are interested in understanding how spells work and how to make your own spells and do spells, I'm gonna let you know right now, babe, it's not gonna be a lot of that over here. Because that is not necessarily my experience. Now, I will say though, like root work um, is my experience in the sense of um, herbalism, having the knowledge about certain plants and herbs as medicine, viewing them as medicine, not separating them from my spirituality, not separating nature from my spirituality at all, and certain prayers and remedies and customs, like what to do from my family. Like that's my experience. So all of the rituals and remedies, all of like anything that I practice has just simply been passed down to me from my family members, um, and maybe just a little bit of knowledge from just certain elders that are within the space. But I know what works for me. Certain things that I practice, um, but I wouldn't necessarily like label what I'm doing or what I have been doing, my folks did, as spell work. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to make that clear. Now, if you are interested in learning more about ancestral veneration, if you are interested in learning more about how to manage grief and connecting more with your spirituality as far as like creating more practices and rituals for yourself, for your mental health, for your well-being. And also, if you are interested in learning more about how to tap into your family traditions and how to make them your own and figure out like what can really work for you, I'm your girl. This is the space for that. I plan on talking about ancestral veneration by way of like genealogy, because I'm big practice of genealogy, like really keeping your family records, really big on that. If you are interested in learning more about the practice like as a whole, so yeah, I will talk about certain books that I fuck with. Oh, other disclaimer, I cuss, I don't curse, I cuss. Okay, some things just slip, some words are just words for me. For other folks, they might be labeled as cuss words, but for me, no, not so much. A curse word for me, for real, is the word can't. I can't stand that word. When people say can't, you can't do this, I can't do that. I prefer to say I'm unable to. But for the most part, like, all these other words that have been labeled as cuss words or profanity, like I don't subscribe. So it's just if it flows, it flows. If it feels right, it's there. Plus, like my elders cuss, my ancestors cuss. So I wanna talk like my folks, like my people. It is what it is. So this is an introduction, for this, I guess, first official episode, introducing the space, what it is. Now, people know me more as the period doula online. Some people really know me from my philanthropic efforts within the menstrual equity space. I have a charity named Happy Period. I have been a doula for some time now, and I have been doing charity work for over 10 years. And I am creating this podcast aside and also within my brand Monarchy, which Monarchy is a space where I provide content, resources, content, news, tips, all centered on reproductive health, for people with vaginas, for folks who just want another space to kind of have conversations about what's going on with reproductive health right now, and also a space for folks to just kind of see a different viewpoint of content when we're talking about womb health, when we're talking about ancestral wisdom and remedies, when we're talking about holistic health, you know, um, just kind of like within that space. So Monarchy, I created to bring that sort of flavor, and also I was inspired by just becoming a doula and learning all of these about all these really cool brands and individuals, from nurse practitioners to midwives and other doulas and entrepreneurs who are creating products and brands that are for the advancement of Black women, brown women, and trans folks. And I was just really inspired by that. So, and I'm always discovering shit. So I was like, let me just create a newsletter to put in my discoveries. It's also a space where I share a lot of articles within Monarchy too. I share a lot of articles about clinical trials and case studies. Yeah, because a lot of shit comes out about, especially pertaining to our health as Black women, from them now admitting after decades of us, a lot of us knowing already that hair relaxers are harming us in a way to the point where they're impacting our wombs in such a negative way. To now, braiding hair is now a factor in us having reproductive disorders and other health issues. So, excuse me. So, yeah, it's monarchy to me is necessary to share information. So, this space, this podcast, the practice of a Hoodoo Baptist will live within monarchy and also have like its separate space for folks to just kind of like listen and and I'll intertwine it within certain issues of the newsletter. So yeah, that's kind of giving that spiel of like how it's gonna be here. Now this podcast, this is not a class. Like I said, I'm not here to teach you spells. I'm also not here to sell you shit. I'm tired. I'm tired of people selling everything to me. I'm tired. I'm not here for that. Yeah, this is just part of my process. This is part of my practice. Even though I will say though, for real, hoodoo is not necessarily a practice for me. It is a it's more of a way of being. Like it's because it's always been here for me, from my perspective. It's always been here. It's always been around it. Even growing up, a lot of folks like in my family who practice it, these traditions, didn't really call it hoodoo or say it because it's seriously, it's rooted in your spirituality and never the separation of God from spirit, from nature, from God's creations, which includes nature. Um, and it's always been about carrying on the traditions of your people and your ancestors. Ancestors meaning like the elevated spirits that have passed on, but they're in your family line, your lineage. um yeah, it's always been about like carrying on either your West African or East African traditions that your ancestors carried with them um through their journey of being kidnapped, of being enslaved, but yet like they never lost their faith. They might have been through so much, but never lost their faith, never forgot their traditions, and carried them on and on through you. A huge part of it too is, and that's that ancestral veneration. You know what I'm saying? So it is very much about like honoring your people. It's not worship, it's honoring. Oh, another thing, like I said, I mean, I want to eliminate the stigma on hoodoo and this beautiful tradition and way of being. I also want to use this as a way of just simply educating people about what the practice is, what the tradition is, and how there's low key different like variations of it, and also all these different experiences of folks who are still here alive and well, who practice and may not know that they practice. I think there's such this huge, this practice has been demonized, right? And it's still such this huge negativity upon it, especially within the Black Christianity community. And I really do believe, like, with knowledge and love and empathy and compassion, we can get to some type of elevation. You know what I'm saying? And I really would like to state that's my intention with this space. Okay. So, yeah, I'm super excited about it because I've been thinking about doing this for some time and prayed on it. Yes, Hoodoo Baptist people, we pray. Oh, let me tell y'all about the name of the podcast because I low key was struggling like, should I name it this? But I was like, I fuck with it. I rock with it. This is what it is. And I also am taking it from my own experience because I've identified as being a Hoodoo Baptist for some time now. Because I don't, even though I have played in people's faces before, like saying that I was an atheist, just to tick people off, or just to trigger folks when folks go into their whole like, oh my God, you're atheist, da, 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 or agnostic. But no, I'm not an atheist, even though I respect folks who are. I have friends who are agnostic, atheist. Like, don't none of that bother me. Um, but yeah, like for real, I have always said like, yeah, I practice hoodoo or Hoodoo Baptist. Most people don't ask you. A lot of people just assume that if you're a Black woman and you're from Alabama, you're a Christian, period, and they don't really go into like your denominations or anything. But yeah, it's like, to me, it's always been like, no white Jesus in this house. Um, like, no, we not about to like feed into like white supremacy when it comes to like our spirituality. Like, no, like that doesn't live here. So but yeah, I've been baptized. I was baptized like as a child, and I was very conscious of it when I was baptized. And then I remember even before I was baptized, I was conscious about like manifestation. Like, I was taught manifestation very early as a kid. I didn't really have too much of that language because I remember like certain words, like it was really hard for me to say. But I do remember for real, like being taught about my thoughts and that my thoughts had power. I remember being taught about prayer and how prayer has a lot of power, and prayer in action um, equals superpowers. So yeah, I was very conscious of like when I was baptized as a child, like I knew what that decision meant, and it was a big deal to me. And yeah, there were, to me, again, growing up, there was never no separation of like God and Christ and plants and nature and ancestors and my thoughts and my spirituality. To me, it's like, no, it's all whole. And that's how I was taught, like everything, comes from the creator, and you are a manifestation of the creator's thoughts and actions. You are his child, you are his, like there's it to me, it was never nothing like separate or negative about it. Now, that's kind of like more of like the religious part of it. But and it's crazy because I'm not a religious girl. Religion gets on my nerves, for real, for real. Which is why I'm always very firm about saying like Hoodoo Baptist, because I know for real, like I might not even be allowed in like most churches. Or you know what I'm saying? And people just kind of assume that I'm just a, Christian Baptist, but I always, like to create my own lane and my own labels. So that's something that I've always been comfortable with. But I just never said, I didn't really start saying it publicly, like online though, until maybe like 2 years ago, about 2, 3 years ago. And yeah, I've been finding more of my people because I have my community. I'm within like the ATR's community, so it's like, we have each other, we have our people, and we say these things, have these types of conversations all the time. Just within company. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like I decided to call it that because I think it would definitely be relatable for some people. I think it'll call in more folks within my community. Um, and I think some folks would appreciate my experience of how, like, I think that's the beauty of, me not separating all these things about me, but just like really embracing it all as a whole. Um, so yeah, that's why we got this title. Um, Now I will make a few promises that y'all can hold me accountable for. Okay. I promise to. It's also good for my commitment issues, so I can commit, to the consistency. Because yeah, I'm really excited about doing this. So yeah, I promise to speak about, like, yeah, my way of being, this practice out loud. My ancestors had to do this in the dark. They had to be very hush hush about it. Um, I don't feel like I have to. I don't want to. It's actually brought me a lot of peace to just simply say, like, yeah, I read my Bible. I say prayers. I also, pray over my plants in my garden, and I grow a lot of my food, and these are, traditions that my grandmothers have like passed on to me, and I make sure I deliver them, and I also help other people sometimes when folks get sick, and I have certain like rituals that I execute when I'm helping someone else when they're sick, and when I'm helping myself, and yeah, and I've saved lives over here, seriously. So yeah, I committing to that, like, to actually sharing my experience, um and practicing it out loud, you know um breaking that silence. I want to, reclaim it publicly. Like, that's the point. You know what I'm saying? Hoodoo has been demonized because it's black, it's not European, and it holds power outside of a colonized religion, right? So, yeah, I want to reclaim that narrative. I want to dismantle the stigma and honor the sacredness of the practice, okay? Because the practice, it is closed, okay? Closed. Not open, closed. That means if your ancestors are not from the continent, native indigenous folks, this ain't for you. That's all I'm going to say about that. Other promise. Yeah, I promise to, in talking about my experience, I'll definitely tap into a little bit about, like, my lineage or family history, or just, and I won't give like too much because I don't believe in sharing other people's stories. But I'm so open to sharing my stories. What I'm talking about is, like, for folks that are interested in like ancestor veneration and tapping into genealogy, I'm definitely going to talk about that because I love genealogy. I love, like, helping other people figure out how to find their peoples. And I truly believe, like, that is a form of ancestral veneration, and that's helping you gain or develop a relationship with your folks. And that is the spiritual aspect of this. Like, I know my ancestors, my angels, and, protectors. They hear for me. They're watching over me. They're pouring their gifts into me. You know, all of that by tapping into genealogy, learning about where they were born, when they were born, the things that they went to, the travels, places they've been. All of that helps me for developing a relationship with them and to tap into them and to really to honor them. So definitely will be hitting on that. And yeah, and then I'm totally down to like tap into a little bit about like root work. I had over the pandemic, I had a really big aha moment, or I guess a reawakening. Family members got sick with COVID, and then they got pneumonia, and I felt like so much when they got sick. Like I heed the call. Yeah, when they got sick and I went down to take care of them, yeah, I did a lot of root work, making sure that they did not pass on, because I really believed that if I didn't do what I did, they would have passed. And it was such a clear message from my creator. It was a clear message from my ancestors, from that side of the family, because it was someone on my maternal side. So it was such this clear message of like, you got to do this, like, you know what I'm saying? So I will be sharing a little bit about that experience, and also just kind of like sharing my journey of like how I tap more into herbalism, and how I am still learning, because there's so much. Oh my God, so much. Like the roots run deep. You know what I'm saying? Like deep, deep. So be talking a little bit about like root work, which again, it doesn't, I don't pull it or label it all as spell work, because yeah, it's just, I label it as medicine, y'all. I'm gonna be for real. Yeah, and I'm not gonna be selling shit. um I might tell you where you could buy some stuff. I might even like promote a couple of like black owned apothecaries or botanicas or something, so you can go and get certain like materials and plants. You know, yeah, because you got to start somewhere. So we just gonna start with a little bit of education. So yeah, so that's another something else that I can commit to. Okay. All right, but I invite you to sit and listen and witness and reflect. I also invite you to uh, share any feedback that you have, any thoughts that you have about like your own journey. What draws you to hoodoo, or what do you think draws you to it? Have you found out more about your peoples, your traditions? You know what I'm saying? Are you already in the practice? Are you already in the tradition through your bloodline? Like, I want to know. I want to connect with you, with this community. This is just the beginning. Monarchy has come over here to Substack, so we hitting like a little under like 1,900 subscribers. It is May 30th, 2025. So cool that Monarchy's at 1,900 subscribers. So we're gonna continue to grow with this first official podcast, and I'm excited. This is really cool. I I'm so glad I hit record, because baby, it's so much that's going on with me personally and professionally. Like, this is also going to be my safe space, like creating for myself to be creative, but to also like chill as I write in my root work book, which is kind of like, it's pretty much like a journal where I have all my personal rituals, remedies, prayers, notes when I talk to like medium friends, or when I have um, when I have readings, like my notes, from my readings are in there. So yeah, it's on personal root work book that I have. So this is also a time where I can journal in there and talk to y'all and just kind of lay out these thoughts. The hoodoo, it's an oral tradition, for real. And I want to continue to build onto that tradition and to uplift folks who have come back home. Like, welcome. Y'all made it, whether it was because of watching the movie Sinners, whether it's because you're in the Buku Hoodoo Book Club, which is an amazing book club. If you don't know, you better ask somebody or look it up. Yeah, whether it's just you were just inspired for whatever reason to view hoodoo as a beautiful practice, as a beautiful living ethno religion, or just a calling, because it truly is a calling for all of us to get back to our roots, to connect with our people. I truly believe that. So thank you for listening to the first episode to my introduction. We're going to always keep these under 35 minutes, okay? Hey, unless I have a guest, but for the most part, I might hit y'all between a cute little between 20 and 35, all right? I promise, I swear. You've been listening to the practice of a Hoodoo Baptist. This is my process. This is my truth. Okay. This is where I honor those who came before me. And I speak what was once kept in silence, covered by spirit, guided by blood. Until next time.